Hello and welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute-a-day podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse, recorded here in the dining room of the Bible Bistro, located in Sharonville, Ohio. Hey there, friend. Welcome back to Daily Dose Radio here in the Bible Bistro. This is your home for organic, artisanal, responsibly handled, and locally sourced Bible study that is fresh and delicious. And you'll find that only here in the Bible Bistro, your only place, your only stop for 5-minute-a-day Bible study in the Psalms, verse by verse. That is Daily Dose Radio. This week we're going to finish up Psalm 22, and oh, what a psalm it has been. We're going to look today and all this week at Psalm 22, verses 21 through 31. Today, verses 21 and 22. So we're just going to get our foot in the door of the last piece of Psalm 22. Now, we've been talking about this psalm for 2 weeks now, and now's the third week we're looking at it. This is about the cross. This is about the crucifixion of Christ. Christ, of course, speaks the words of the first verse of this psalm while he is on the cross, and we find portions of this repeated in the New Testament at the scene of the cross, such as the dividing of the garment, the casting of lots for the garment, and so forth. All of that is right there in the New Testament. Well, I've tried to catalog that for us as we went through. So if you didn't hear those podcasts, I would recommend you go back and listen to any of the podcasts that had to do with Psalm 22. So there were 10 podcasts up to this point in Psalm 22. Just go back and review if you didn't get to hear any of those. So today, let me read for us verses 21 and 22. Save me from the mouth of the lion, and from the horns of the wild oxen answer me. I recount your name to my brethren. In the midst of the assembly, I will praise you. So the lions, we've had them. We've had them back in the middle part of this psalm. What was it, verse 13? The lions tear and they roar. And we said that, the lions, and that portion right there is speaking of the scourging, all the passion really, how they tore at his body and destroyed him. Even before he got to the cross, he was a mess because of all the torture that they had put him through. He comes to the cross, and of course that is outlined for us in the verses there in 11 through 20. They nailed him to the cross. They pierced his hands and his feet. They pierced his side with the spear. All that is outlined in those middle verses there in Psalm 22. And when we come to Psalm 22, verse 21, we have the lion again, but this time it's not lions. It's not plural. It's singular, the lion. Perhaps what we have is a reference to the great accuser of the brethren, the one who met him in the wilderness and tempted him. He tempted him in those 3 different ways, and Christ resisted by quoting the Word of God every time. Yeah, that's the one, the lion that prowls around seeking whom he may devour. He is our great enemy, and he was, of course, the great enemy of Christ. And the only time that he had any chance to have dominion over the Son of God was while he was on the cross. And Jesus prays here, save me from the mouth of the lion. To the lion, who no doubt is there at the cross, probably relishing the fact that the Son of God now has been crucified. And it says, from the horns of the wild oxen answer me. Some translations will have this as unicorns. Verse 22, I recount your name to my brethren, and in the assembly, and in the midst of the assembly, I will praise you. So he's praising God despite his affliction, despite the fact that the lions have torn him. The lion's mouth is about him. The wild oxen, the unicorns, they want to pierce him. He's been nailed to the cross and so forth. All of that has happened, and yet he still says, even in the midst of all of that affliction, he says, I recount your name to my brethren. In the midst of the assembly, I will praise you. And of course, that speaks directly to what we had there at the beginning of the psalm, there in verse 3, but you are holy. He makes that prayer, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from my complaint, from the voice of my groaning? You're silent to me. But then he says, but you're holy. You know best. You know what's going on. Here he says, the mouth of the lion is on me, yet I will praise you. This is beautiful. Beautiful, the wonderful faith, the wonderful example that Christ sets for us on the cross. Join me again tomorrow. We'll look at verses 23 and 24 and see a wonderful promise. Oh my goodness, there in verse 24. Don't miss tomorrow. Join me then here on Daily Dose Radio. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. For more fresh and delicious Bible studies, podcasts, books, and more, check out the Bible Bistro online and on YouTube. Join me again next time for Daily Dose Radio.